Okay, let's do this. So we got a couple more lectures. We kind of lost the lecture, so this one was whatever we did on Monday. Was something. Using Nginx and self-signed certs to deploy with HTTPS. That's what we did last time and cleaned up some slides. We got 2 more lectures. These lectures are how to deploy. So for your project, you do have a deployment requirement, and you have to get your app out there with the domain name live. We do have the GitHub education pack. You can use that to do this for free. If that is an issue, if there's anything, there's the disclaimer in the handout. Make sure you let me know. We'll figure something out. We'll do something that you don't have to pay money. You should be able to do this for free. You get a free domain name, I believe, through Namecheap, and free hosting with DigitalOcean. I'm going to use DigitalOcean in my demo today, so we'll get that. But I am using Google Domains for what it's worth. It's just where I get my domains from, because I'm going to pay cash instead of getting my free ones. So what we want to do is go through that whole process of how to deploy. I do this every semester, and it used to take me 2 lectures. I've been getting good enough at it that it might take me 1. In that case, we'll figure out something fun to do on Friday. The deadline to sign up for a presentation is tonight, but it doesn't matter because the whole schedule is already made. So nobody has to worry about this. There's one team that didn't fill this out. So if you're that team, you just got the last slot that's available. If you don't remember, this happens a lot. If you don't remember your team name, I'm only going to put team names on the schedule. If you don't remember your team name, just send me an email. Be like, what's our team name again? If you chose your time, you can deduce by the name at that time. But you use your team name at the beginning of the semester when one of your teammates fills out that form, and you don't really use it again in any official capacity. So it's common to forget them, and that's fine. Just send me an email, and I'll let you know. Or ask the TAs; they have access to the sheet with all the information as well, and we'll let you know. Yeah, and let's just do this. So what I want to do is deploy something to the world. One thing, we will get to a part in this lecture where I'm going to buy a domain name. So if you have domain name ideas, let me know. Let me know in the chat, preferably. But let's do this. I gotta shift gears from 116. It's usually not hard to shift gears, but I have everything's open-ended lectures for the rest of the semester, so it's harder to shift from open-ended lecture to an open-ended lecture on a completely different topic. But it'll just take me 1 second, and we'll get there. So I have this app. It's one of the apps that we did earlier this semester. I didn't pick anything too interesting. It just returns hello to any request. So we don't have a super interesting example. But the idea here is that this code is going to run using Docker Compose with the way that we have all semester, the way that you have with your homework, the way that you are for your project. So I want to show you one of the best things about using Docker and Docker Compose is I'm going to show you how to deploy this app, which uses the same structure. Like I'm going to say at one point, Docker Compose up. And that's the same exact thing you're going to do. So what I do to deploy here, your homework, your project, it works. They all work with Docker Compose, just running Docker Compose up. It's going to work the same exact way for you. So I have Docker Compose. I'm running Mongo and my app. So we're not running Nginx in Docker for this example. We will use Nginx, but I'm going to run Nginx on bare metal for what it's worth. And I'll explain why. I'll show you why. I got a Docker file. It's just the standard Python Docker file. I'm installing my requirements. That's why I'm not concerned about this error here, because I'm going to install my requirements in the Docker container, and I'm not concerned about running this locally. I don't have to run it locally. I'm going to run it in a container. Requirements is where I'm going to get PyMongo installed and get rid of that error inside the container. And I'm running this app. Let me stop it and just verify that we got things running. goosedancing.com. Oh, and it has to, if you can check to see if the domain is available can be helpful. I would guess goosedancing.com is taken. Is it not taken? Is that actually available? Of course you didn't. Oh, you're a TA, too. Look it up. Look it up quick before you make a suggestion that's not possible. It really isn't? It's not taken. We might do that. Localhost 8080, and it says hello. You know what? We got a little time. We can have this do something better. Definitely not taken. Where is it? On the internet. It's not. We'll get there. We'll get there. How do I? It's an MP4? Does it have audio? Okay, let's host this. Oh, is this too much? Can we host this? How hard would it be to host this? We can do this. Let's make this a Flask server. Let's swap this server out. We can do this. Let's swap this server out. I'll do Hello World as a backup just in case we need it. Get rid of this. Get rid of this. Okay, so here's our server. We need to add Flask as a requirement. I'm going to get rid of Socket.io. We don't need that. Don't need this. App.run, file name, get / index.html. Let's add some HTML in here. New, oh, I misclicked. New directory public, new file index.html. Does PyCharm not give me a generic HTML document? I don't think I've written an HTML document from scratch in forever. Should I even try this? HTML. It'll be bare bones. It won't have the stuff that we need, that we should have. Let's do this. Check language. Oh, no, I don't want that stuff. Come on. EN, right? Yeah. Let's add a title too. Dancing duck. Video src. Dancing duck camelcase.mp4. Downloads a new tab. Dancing duck camel case. This should work. Oh no. Okay. We can do this. Just bear with me for a sec. We'll get at least this much working. We want to autoplay it. I want this over here. Why is my video not autoplaying? Tempted to buy it and ruin everything. Why is it not playing? Muted. There we go. So browsers, it just had to come to me, but browsers won't autoplay things if it's not muted, which some websites have ways to get around this. They'll blast you with videos, but the intent is to not annoy users. So you're not just blasting audio at your users all the time. Some sites, with enough JavaScript, and custom media players and stuff, you can get this to happen anyway. You can autoplay unmuted videos, but by default, HTML5 does not let you do that. So I just had to get my autoplay and muted on there, and we got there. Can I put this on repeat? How do I repeat a video? It's just going to dance one time. We'll think about that in a bit. I want to change this source to, do I want to change that source? Path, file name, public. No, I don't. I'm actually set up good here. This might actually be done. So let's run this in Docker to make sure it works in Docker Compose still, and then we'll deploy this thing. We got something more exciting than hello. I was sad that that's the example that I brought here today, so I'm glad that we're getting away from that. So Docker Compose up -- build -- force recreate. Missing Heya for 10 hours? I mean, give me the embed. We can put whatever we want on here. Don't limit yourselves. But you got to help me out because I'm not looking that up right now. So if we go to localhost 8080, it's because of reasons why that didn't work. So I'm running on 5,000, so let me update my Docker Compose to 5,000 instead of 8,000. I can force kill this. Rerun it. Hey, all right. Is it gonna auto repeat? No, it's just gonna play once. Let this one be a mystery. It's an online tutorial. Oh, you just cut and paste from W3 Schools and changed the dogs. All right, so let's start deploying this thing. So the first thing I want to do is share my project on GitHub. We're going to use Git for this, just like you're using for your project. You have your repo you have all your code in a GitHub repo. So let's get this into a GitHub repo. Let's call it Dancing Duck and Dogs, because we got dogs in there now. I'm going to share this. And if I go to my GitHub, we should see that. Oh, not yet. Let me get rid of. I don't have a git ignore, so I got all this crap in here. That's fine. This is fine. Let me go to my GitHub. I'm just going to make me. Oops. I'm just going to make me 2FA. Oh, I got to be in Opera. We can do this. We can do this. Sign in. There we go. Then I need my auth code. I get why 2FA, but it's starting to get annoying. Everything just has one extra step in it. My repositories. dancing duck and dog. And let me copy this GitHub link. So now what I want to do is go into my DigitalOcean droplet. So if I go to DigitalOcean, which I don't really have to go to, oh, I'm not logged in DigitalOcean. Maybe I am. Yeah, I am. So if I go to my droplets, I can see I have 2 droplets, and what I want is the IP address for the droplet. Now I created these droplets, I have everything set up. It's one button, it's the create button. You'll get a multitude of options when you create one of these. If you stick with the defaults, Ubuntu, basic. If you're paying, you can go down to, should be $5 a month, oh, $4 a month. You can go down to $4 a month for the cheapest option. Use up your free credits, of course. Get the GitHub Education Pack and you get free credits on DigitalOcean. Use up your free ones. But if you do, you should still have to choose one. Go down to the lowest one. For our purposes, we don't need much. If you want more, like I pay a little bit more for mine, but I run a whole bunch of stuff on them, like the course websites and stuff. The regions, I mean, if you're concerned about the regions, you can choose one. But choosing New York, that's the one closest to us physically. It's going to give you the most performance. If you have other reasons to cancel something else, you know, SSH keys. I have a bunch of SSH keys set up, so I want to use the SSH keys that I have installed. Don't need any of those, just one droplet and everything. Then you would create that droplet, and then I'm not going to create that because I don't want to create another one. But once you create that, you'll have a droplet listed here. You want to grab your IP address. I believe you have to set up SSH access. You'll get a root password, and then you can use that to upload your SSH keys or upload SSH keys in the using the GUI here. If you don't want to do that or you don't know what that means, just type in the password each time. You're not going to see me type in passwords, though, because I have my SSH keys set up. Loop. Oh. Loop the duck. So we want to log into one of these. I don't know which one I even want to log into. Probably this one. Let's close the terminal here. And to log into this, I'm going to go to my terminal. And this is one of the big reasons why I like DigitalOcean, not sponsored or anything. I can just SSH into the box, or into the VM, I'm sure it's a VM, and have root access there. So I'm going to log in as root at that IP address. And now I'm in that virtual droplet that's somewhere in New York City, because I always use New York City as my location for my droplets. I'm logged into that machine in New York City, and now I can do whatever I want on this machine. Now I have things running here. I have all kinds of other stuff here and previous lecture examples where I do this. But what I want to focus on first, what do I want to focus on first? Let's get the code first and run this app. So I have a full Ubuntu environment here. I'm going to grab my app code, which isn't in my clipboard anymore because I copied that IP address. Let me get this bigger. Git, clone, paste. And now I should have a directory, dancing duck and dog. With all the code that we just saw in my editor. So I wrote the code locally, pushed it to GitHub, pulled it from GitHub on my server, and now I have all my code locally. And guess what I'm all ready to do? Docker compose up -d. When you go to actually deploy, let me run that first. When you go to actually deploy, you want that -d option that's going to run in detached mode. So it's going to run my Docker containers, everything's set up the same way you're used to seeing, but then it's going to give me my command line back. I want my terminal back so I can do more things, and this is just going to run in the background. So when I get that running and I go to Docker PS, That's going to give me a list of all my running containers, and I should see 2 of these for my Dancing Duck and Dog app. I got my Dancing Duck and Dog app and a Mongo container for it. So I have my 2 containers running for this app, and I should have my app running on port 8080 locally, which I'm surprised didn't give me an issue. Oops. It's running. Oh, because that's not left. I was going to say 8080 is already being used, but it's not mapped to a local port. So I didn't get a conflict there. I use 8080 for a lot of things, so I'm surprised I'm not using 8080 for anything yet. So if I curl localhost 8080, I should get my HTML. So I'm successfully hosting my code locally on 8080. All that you've done for your homework tons of times, but you've done it on your laptop. Hopefully you've been doing that using the command line. It's the same exact thing when you log into your DigitalOcean droplet. You just do the same thing, command line, clone your repo, get into your directory, Docker compose up, Docker PS to see all of your running containers. So I have this successfully running on port 8080 in my DigitalOcean droplet. But that's like not even half the battle. I shouldn't say it that way. It's about half the battle, but you've seen all that stuff already. You've been doing that much all semester. So let's get to the good stuff. So I have Nginx already running on this droplet. What I do is I have Nginx running on the droplet itself, and then I have Nginx routing traffic to the appropriate container that I want it to hit. So if I go to, what am I doing? etc Nginx. I can see my Nginx configuration actually just for, oh, there's nothing even there. It's going to show you, it's going to show you the configuration. So we have configuration, which should be similar to what we see, what we've seen. It's not really, though. Where's anything resembling what we see? This right here. Include sites enabled /star. That's my most important line in my configuration. Because I'm going to go to sites enabled, which is a directory, and here's where I have my actual configuration that I set up that I care about. The other one is my default, the default configuration, which just says go to that confd directory like we use when we did Nginx through Docker, and also go to the sites enabled directory and add all the configuration in those 2 directories, or in that file and this directory, add all that to the configuration. So I have quite a few of these. I'm just going to grab one of these. Yeah, let me just grab one of these. Let me grab CSE312.com and copy it into dancingduck.com. Which I should probably make sure we get the domain name first. Let me put this on hold for 1 second and make sure the domain name is actually available. So let's sidestep for a second here. So I want to get a domain because I don't want to set up my configuration for a domain that we're not going to get. Dancingduck.com. Can I see when it was registered? If somebody did actually snipe it, it'd be kind of funny, actually. What was it?
I think if you click find out, it'll tell you when it was registered.
Find out who owns this domain.
2019.
Okay. Who lied to me then? Somebody said this was available. Kevin. So I'm going to get Dancing Duck.
Well, that's not the domain Kevin said.
What's the domain Kevin said then? Did I actually type it wrong? Isn't that a duck? Have I just been thinking that was a duck the whole time? Wait, is that a duck or a goose? Now I'm confused. GooseDancing.com. Okay, I got it wrong. That's my fault. GooseDancing.com. Right? That's the right one? Post your 312 code. It's a nice one. Okay, let's get this one. Go to my cart, make sure Dancing Duck is not in there. I don't know how I thought of dancing. Like, where did I get that from? Auto renew off. I'm only going to buy this for 1 year. Yeah, I just wanted the alliteration so bad. Check out. Yeah, I just did. And domains are pretty cheap. $12 a year for a domain, by the way. You can have the last four on my credit card. I'm fine with that. Oh, my address is already public online. Fine with it. I'm fine with all of this. I'm not famous enough for that to be a problem. Domain, oh, I swear to God, if somebody did actually get it right now. Plus $3,000. You all suck me. Wait, fast enough for that one. I might keep that domain. Oh, shit. Why is this taking so long? Give me my domain. Oh, man. Okay. Okay, we got a domain. So once we get a domain, no matter what service you go through, this is one thing why I like Google. It just makes it really easy to do this part. No matter what service you go through, you want to have it point to your droplet. So I went to Avenger, right? So I want to get that IP address. I want to add an A record and paste my IP address and save. And that should be all I need for, I can't believe I bought that name. That should be all we need for that. And then I'm going a little bit out of order today, but we can go to our domain name, :8080, or our domain name, our IP address, :8080, and we will get we're live to the world right now. We don't need a domain name to be live to the world, but everybody would have to type in that IP address and port, or if you want to just host one thing on your droplet, people would have to know your IP address to be able to get to that site. I'm using ports other than 80 and 443 because Nginx is listening on ports 80 and 443. My Nginx that's running on the server is handling all my traffic. And when I go into this, and you can all tell Ethan that I'm using Pico in lecture, I go into my configuration, I have one of these files, one of these configuration files. Remember, my configuration is reading all of the config files in this directory. For each one of these files, I'm setting up a different server domain, a different domain name. So I'm saying if we get traffic for CSE312.com, forward that to localhost 8312. So I'm going to forward to a different port depending on what the domain name is that was requested. If somebody requests 312.com, they're going to get forwarded to 8312, which is, of course, where the CSE312 Docker container is running and listening. If somebody requests a different site, this is the one we did last semester, then it's going to be forwarded to a different port. And this is how I have one DigitalOcean droplet, which is going to maintain many domain names. So I have a bunch of domain names sitting on this droplet, as you can see. I can have all these sites running on this droplet and have Nginx route to the appropriate Docker container depending on which domain name was requested. So I'm hosting multiple domain names on a single droplet and having Nginx do the routing for me by using it as a reverse proxy like we did last time. So I want to set up our new one, which I want to get rid of most of this. To get it looking more like what we saw last time. So I'm going to say if, we need the right server name. So if we get a request for this lovely domain name, then forward the traffic to localhost 8080, which is where our container is running. So that's all we need for our configuration here. And then I want to do Nginx whatever, I always forget what it is, -s reload. It's the only Nginx command I ever run these days. So I just do exclamation ng. It's going to run the last command I ran that started with ng, which is always going to be that reload command. So my brain doesn't have to think about that. So now if we go to our domain name, now we're hosted at the domain name. And our DNS propagated already, like that domain name is already pointed to my IP address. So now when you have a DNS lookup for this domain name, it's saying, oh yeah, let me grab that IP address that Jesse told me is the IP address that this domain name should point to, and then send the request to that IP address. If I want this domain name to be pointing at something else, maybe I want to run a server at my house, and I have it point to my home IP address, I can do that too. I just go to Google Domains, update that A record, and have it point to another domain name. But we're not secure. Geez, I got this down to less than a lecture now these days. Maybe I should intentionally slow down a bit. Does anybody have questions? There's only one step left. So we need encryption. For encryption for your homework, Objective 5 of your homework, it actually takes a little bit to set up. You've got a bit of configuration to do. You've got to mess with your Nginx, with your Docker Compose, set up Nginx and all that. When you have a domain name, this wonderful tool, certbot, makes it quite a bit easier. So I'm going to go to certbot. I'm going to say I'm running Nginx on Ubuntu. It's going to have a couple pretty easy steps for me. SSH into the server, we did that. Install snapd. I already did that because I already ran certbot multiple times. I already have it installed. Install certbot using snap, did that. Install certbot, there's quite a few steps. Prepare the certbot command, and then finally the command that I want, certbot --nginx. All the rest is installing certbot onto your machine. And then I want to do certbot. I want to run certbot, and I want to tell it that I'm using Nginx. It's going to say, yo, it looks like you got a lot of domain names going on here. which one do you want me to encrypt? Oh, this is for encryption, by the way. Which one do you want me to encrypt? And option 10. And what it's doing now is verifying that I do, in fact, control that domain name, and I didn't just add it to my Nginx configuration. They don't want me to be able to add google.com to my Nginx and be like, oh, yeah, here's a cert for google.com. Here you go. It's not going to do that. So right now it's verifying. Well, it's already done. It's verifying that I do own that IP address. It's setting some Nginx configurations to host random values. And then its server is requesting that domain name and trying to request those exact values. And as long as it can get those values, it can then verify that I do control this domain name. It's going to ask me if I want to redirect. I want to redirect. And I'll explain what that means in a second. And then once that's all done, I'm going to go back to my configuration, and I'm going to see that certbot added quite a bit of configuration to my file. Whenever you saw these managed by certbots, that means it's managed by certbot. Certbot added all this. So I just said the location, hey, here's where all my stuff is, and I updated that port number. And the server added a redirect for me when I said I want redirects. What it's saying is if you get a request on port 80, it's going to redirect you to HTTPS. So it's going to redirect you to port 443. If you get a request on port 443, then it's going to be encrypted using the same setup that we had before, and then a little bit more, just the way certbot has things set up, a little bit more configuration as well. And you can see that I have my keychain and my private key saved in different files. So if I go to these files, I can actually see the certificate and the private key that certbot generated when I ran that script. So it did all that stuff, running OpenSSL, generating my keys, all that good stuff. It went through all that for me. And then preserved the code that I actually wrote. The code that I actually wrote is still up here. This chunk and this listen 80, that's the only stuff that I wrote. And then certbot did everything else for me. Certbot's a really nice tool. I forget if I have to reload Nginx or not after that, but it doesn't hurt to do it an extra time. We refresh this. Let me open the console just to verify what's happening. I'm going to refresh this. We got a request for HTTP. Got a redirect with the location HTTPS. Made an HTTPS request. Got the site. We got our lock. We have a valid certificate issued by Let's Encrypt. The Let's Encrypt was signed by ISRG root X1, which is the root CA that verified Let's Encrypt's certificate, which Let's Encrypt is, that certbot is going to install a Let's Encrypt certificate. And then Let's Encrypt signed my certificate and gave me all my wonderful crypto stuff. Do we not get audio, though? Is there no audio to it? There must not be. My audio is on? I think that says that when there's nothing playing, though, but let me check. Where even are my audio settings? Computers are confusing. Oops, not that one. Really, though, why can't I get audio? I have no buttons for it. I got the stupid virtual bar, and it doesn't give me the buttons that I want. There we go. Oh, because I was trying to play through. Oh, I see. Because it's trying to play through. That's why I don't have controls, because it's going through the thing, and this is muted. I checked the audio button for not the mute button. There we go. Hey, got there. apparently I can do this demo in quite a bit less than a lecture. So we're deployed, we have a domain name, we have HTTPS, a valid cert on that domain name. We got audio. Audio was the most technical challenge that I had doing that whole thing. What else would you want? So any questions on this? Because this is, you don't have to do it exactly the way I did it, but this is what you got to do on your server. You have to get deployed with a domain name. Yeah. Oh, I have to mute this so I can hear you. What's up? How come it's not what? The name is not? Sorry, what do you mean? It's not loading for you? Wait, has anyone been able to go to it? Let's see if I can go to it on my phone. It's working. The DNS might still be propagating on certain DNS servers. So it's possible it'll just take a second for the DNS to go through. I was surprised it got through so quick on mine, honestly. But it can depend on which DNS servers you're using. Like if you're using Google's DNS servers, it should be pretty immediate because I did a Google domain. You Google domains to get my domain name. Yeah, any questions on any of that? And if not, what are we doing on Friday? Because I thought this demo would take 2 days, but apparently I got pretty quick at it. Yeah.
Do you have any previous projects from students last semester?
Oh, I do. I could have them present their project too. So some of them are TAs sitting right there. So maybe they could present their project. And since nobody said no, so yeah, I think we can do that. What's that? Oh, yeah, course evals. Last I checked, course evals are at 72, so I did unlock 2. Why only 72? What do you want? 72 is pretty good. I was surprised it got up there that fast. Oh, come on, just load. Anyway, course evals, last I checked, were at 72, so I did open on Autolab 2 submissions for the first 2 makeup objectives. When you submit, make sure you let me know the homework and the objective numbers that you're submitting for. There's a box, there's a text box right above the submit button. Just let me know HW1 OBJ3 will suffice, and then submit your zip file with solutions for that, with the correct answers to that. Yeah. You submitted what to the? We can talk about that. I'm not quite sure what you mean. We can talk about it. But yeah, fill out your things. Fill out your course evals. Anybody have anything else? All right. Have a great day. I'll see everybody Friday.